Hey guys, it's Ben with Myers Woodshop, and today I thought we'd do part 3 of Carbide Create. I have a buddy who is moving, him and his family, to a different town, and he had a barn on his property. We ripped down some barn wood, and I figured I'd make him a sign as something memorable to remember. So this is kind of an off-the-cuff thing, but I know I'm going to try to use different bits and different tool paths so you can see what tool path changes are. So let's just dive in. And this is kind of an off the cuff thing, so I don't have anything pre planned. So you'll see kind of my creative process. So first thing, we open Carbide Create, and then we're always going to go over here on the left and hit the settings gear icon. And this is the job setup. So the board I have is 783 millimeters wide. That's our X. 293 millimeters tall. That's our Y, so X and Y, and then the thickness is around 19. It's kind of a janky old piece of wood, but that's about what it is. We're going to reference off the top of our stock thickness. I'm going to set the toolpath at 0 at bottom left. That's typically where I do it. If you have made my wasteboard, it's in the center, so keep a heads up on that. But lower left, that's where I'm going to start it. It's softwood. I'm not exactly sure. I think it's a pine, but because it's super weathered and old. I have an XXL, and I'm going to change my retract height to 4 on this one. The higher up it is, the safer you are. It'll retract higher up and move, but it's going to take longer to cut. So I like something around 4. Do not set it to 0. It's gonna cut the top of your wood off. So 4 is where I'm about at. I like to work in millimeters typically, so I'm selecting millimeters. I have no document background, and clearing the drawing. If I had any vectors on here, would take it off. I don't have any. I'm starting fresh, so we'll hit OK. And I'm going to use the middle mouse wheel to zoom in and out, and then click with the right mouse click. I'll hold that down and I can move it around. And then if I click a reset view up here at the top, it'll kind of pop it up so I can see the whole thing. So I like to zoom out just a little bit. So here's my piece of wood as it stands. So I'm pretty much wanting to do their last name kind of in the middle and established, and then everybody's name across the bottom with some sort of squirrely things on the sides or in the corners, some sort of a vectory pretty art. So the first things first, I'm going to put their names. So we're going to come over here to create vector, and I'm going to click on the text box. Click on that. This move thing I can't figure out, to be honest with you. It doesn't seem to work the way it's intended, so I'm just going to skip over that, and I can't give you the answers for that. I really don't know. Size, though, we can figure out the size of our text. Since my board is 783 wide, I think I want to do at least maybe 200. Forgot to hit apply. We'll do 200. Height, I think it'll auto adjust. Rotation is 0. We don't want it to turn anyway. We want it to sit out the way it is. And their last name is Coward. So I'm just going to stick with these settings for now. Wrote in Coward, and I'm going to hit apply before this changes over here. So I hit apply, and that's what 200 wide works out to. See, it auto adjusted the height to 33, and now I can click on it and kind of move it around. But I'm thinking maybe somewhere up here on the top is what I want to do. If I don't like that size, if I want it a little bigger, I can hit it again. Let's change it to 300 and then hit apply. You can see it auto adjusted the height to proportion. That looks about right. But let me walk you through these scale things down here. So the first one, we'll click that, and this is where you can change the size and the scale. So if I know I want maybe 2 times as big, I'll hit 2 and apply, and that just doubled the size. So if I want to go back, I'll hit the scale again, and I'll put 0.5 because that's half of 1, and hit apply. and then went back to normal. So you can go forward and backward in size with that scale. You could also change it right here. If I wanted to go back to 200, you can hit apply. It's kind of a redundant thing because it's there. Let's assume you want to rotate it. There's the scale right here. You'll go to a degree, and let's say we want to go rotate it to the right. So we'll put a 90-degree angle. It'll turn 90 degrees, and I'll hit apply, and now it's going vertical. If we did a 180, oh, I guess if we did another 90, maybe. Nope. If we did a 180 and hit apply, it should be upside down now. Yeah. So if we do a 360, it'll flip all the way around, back to normal. That would equal 0 as well. So it's the same. So that's what that rotating button does. Now here we have horizontal flip. If we click that, it's going to flip it backwards. Now it's kind of a mirrored effect. If you're, let's say you're drag bitting on a piece of glass and you want to etch it on the back, this would be a perfect way to do it, just reflection. So if I click it again, I'll flip it back the way it was. And here we are, we have the vertical flip. So this is just like the horizontal flip, except it'll flip it upside down. So we did that with our rotation, but we can flip it like this. Okay, so typically when we have a name, we're just going to do a simple VCarve. So we'll come over to toolpath, we'll click on VCarve, we'll hit edit, and we'll select our V-bit right here. We can select anyone we want. I don't know what the difference is in these. I don't know what size they are. So we're going to hit edit library. I need to know the degree. What degree V-bit we have. So we'll click on V-mill number 0.5. And we can see right here it's 45 listed in the angle per side. That's the major thing in a V-bit. So this is per side. So 45 times 2 will give you the degree. So this is a 90-degree V-bit with a diameter of 0.5. Okay. Now down here, 302, which is showing a 0.5 as well, that is a 30 angle, 30 degree times 2. That's a 60 degree V-bit. I don't know why it's not labeled from the factory that way, but that's just the way it is. So we're going to remember 302. That's kind of a common 60 and 90 degree, but we're just going to go ahead and throw in a 60 degree V-bit. So we're select 302. We're going to leave all of this stuff just the way it is. Call it the 60 degree V-bit path, or V-bit, and hit OK. And you can see our simulation just goes ahead and carves out the name. Gives you a little better depth. Carves it deep, fits it in there. The wider your angle, the shallower it will go down. It's trying to make fill it all in with the tip. So if it's a very sharp tip, it's going to make this a lot deeper. So 120 degrees will make these not as deep. So that's a V-bit. Let's go ahead and change it. I'll show you what it looks like in the 90 degree. We'll hit OK. And we can zoom in. I don't know if it's going to totally pick up, but you can see it's a lot shallower now. So if you want something shallower, you want to get the 90. Hopefully that shows. See, kind of it's shallower. Or 120. If you want it deeper, it's a 60. A 30 degree is going to get a lot of little detail, but it's going to go way deeper. So there is that. So I'm going to show you another way we can work with text. I'll go ahead and delete that one. We'll go back to design. And this is the offset path. It's pretty cool. We're going to select the text we like. We'll hit offset. Now we can offset a line inside or offset a line outside, but I'm going to choose outside. And I'm going to choose, let's choose 5 millimeters and hit apply. And you can see now it just made this line on the outside kind of like a bubbly text to the name. It's kind of a little too big. I don't have much detail on the inside, so I'm going to click on that. And I'm going to go back. I'm going to delete this because I can't go backwards. I'm going to make it, what did I make it, 5? I'm going to make it 4. Again, on the outside. And we'll hit, oop, actually, I still have the inside ones that are created there. Go back and delete these. Select all this. And I'm going to say 4 millimeters on the outside and hit apply. And there we go. I like that a little better. It gives me a little bit more room in the R. So we got a lot of letters. It's kind of hard on the eyes, but we're going to go to toolpath and we're going to select all the toolpaths here. And we're going to go to contour and I'm going to select a tiny bit. So I'm going to select a 0.063 in end because we're not doing 3D carving, so we're just kind of doing a 2D. So I'm going to hit end. I'm going to leave all this for now and hit OK. I'm going to click on pocket. So I want to do a pocket cut. And you can see what it's selecting. It's selecting all the area around the outside of the letters. So just to show you what it's going to look like, it's going to leave those letters raised right here. So if you like areas in a pocket cut out around the letters, that's what it'll look like. If you don't want the C and O and the R things stuck, we'd have to go back to design and select the O there and that, hit toolpath. We're going to contour and pocket those things out and hit OK. And now you can see those are gone. And that looks pretty good. I like that. So that's another way you can use the offset to get you some raised letters. I'm going to go back and show you another way to do it. Let me just go back and delete these. Let me zoom in, make sure we have nothing. Okay. Another way we can do it is click on the square button and we can draw a square around. That's too big of a square. I'm going to draw that square. I'm going to drag it over and draw a square around our letters and then select it all. See, I have everything selected and hit toolpath. And then we're going to delete or disable these. I'll just go ahead and disable it for now. Right click, disable. We'll hit contour. We're going to hit edit. I'm going to choose a 1/16 or an 1/8 inch end mill. We'll try an 1/8 inch because if we do an 1/8 inch, it'll cut out a whole lot more and be a little faster. Hit OK, and we're going to do pocket. So pocket out all this. We'll hit OK. And you see that. And there's another way we can raise letters. Now this T, you see how this T is funky and it doesn't look like it's cutting or it's cutting the T off? That's because of Carbide Create. It's an error. It doesn't always show all of the G code correctly. It's just kind of a downside. It's kind of a bummer. Easel has much better previews than Carbide, but anyways. So that'll give you some raised letters here. And that's another way to do it. Easier way, but it leaves you this big square, or you can do a circle or whatever. So that is some text and how to do some text there. So I'm going to go back to design. I'm going to delete that. Oop, I didn't mean to delete all of that. Just the outside. Alright, so I don't care for this font. We're going to select the font and we're going to find one that looks better. It's kind of just a hit and miss. And there's no fast way to do this within Carbide Create. You just have to click it and go down until you find one you like. Bookman Old Style Regular is just always one that fits me. I don't know why, I just like it. It's nice and clean, but pretty. So for now, I'm going to stick with that. I think it's a little too small because I want it to be their last name. So I'm going to change it to 300. Hit apply. That's looking a lot better. So I kind of want it up top, maybe around here, but I want it centered. And Carbide Create does not like to center or align one vector. And since this is one vector, we have to make another one. So right now I'm just going to make any old vector. I just made a square, but that will allow me to select two vectors. You see over on the side, there's an alignment tool. I'll go ahead and click that. We want to align to the stock, and I want to align it left to right, not up and down because I don't want this coward right in the center. I want it up top, so align left and right. And you see now, this is aligned left and right, this is aligned left and right. I can hit done, and I'm just going to delete the vector I made. And that's the dumb workaround to make us align one vector. Unfortunately, it just won't do one vector. I'm going to come up here and click Save again, because I now have my coward about where I want it. So we're going to put their last names in there now. Click on Name. So we're going to do Justin, Amy, Ella, Ava. And we'll hit Apply. So there is all of their names. I think I'm going to put maybe 2 spaces between each name. I like that a little better. Probably try to match what it was. I believe it was Bookman Old Style Regular. Maybe an italic for their names. I think that looks pretty cool. And we're going to make this a little bit bigger. I'm going to use the scale. And I'm going to scale it by double. I hit Apply. And that looks pretty good. I like that. So we got everybody's name here. So now I kind of want to, I think this is too small. I think we're going even bigger. Let's do 400. And hit Apply. That's looking better, because then we want to make these letters a little bit bigger. Let's make that width 300. And hit Apply. Yeah, that's a little bit more correct with our board here. So we want Justin and Cowarts and everything aligned, so we're going to select both of those. Alignment tools. Align to stock, remember, not to each other. And we're going to center left to right. That moved Coward over. Justin and Amy apparently were perfect. And we'll hit done. So I really like what we got going on here. I think we're going to do a square around Coward. I don't know. Kind of design as we go. Maybe move this down a bit, like here. Because I'm thinking I want to do an established. Let's delete that square. Let's put established in first. I gotta put all my words in first. So it's EST 2012. Hit Apply. That's kind of going to go something like that. Of course, we got to do a little bit bigger, maybe 150. It's looking pretty good. I'll change it to Bookman 2 to match kind of everything. Bookman regular. Now, let's go ahead and center everything to the stock. Hit this. Everything's centered left to right. I like it. It looks good. Zoom in. Okay. So now we're going pretty general. I think we're gonna do maybe a line over this, maybe a small square. So this point, when you click on square or rectangle, it says click on a rectangle center. So I'm kind of wanting it about here, and then we'll drag it out and do something along these lines. I'm kind of looking at the grid line up top, comparing it to the grid line down below. That's about it. I'm going to go out. Let's see, the grid line is about here. Maybe about here. So that's our line. Let me just raise it up and we can see directly how it lines up. It's about a box on either side. So that looks good to me. So maybe about here. Select it all. Again, back to alignment tools. Align to stock. I'll hit center. I was centered. And there's what our sign looks like. Now I'm thinking about some sort of special, I don't know, doodad, curly thing, whatever on either side kind of matching. So for now, I'm going to see what kind of library elements they have in Carbide Create. That's what this button will do. So I'll click that. And this gives us kind of some vectors that are already pre-programmed that we can pop in. I was thinking maybe more of a ribbon. They're kind of ugly. Don't really care for flowers, sports, stars, sun, kids. I am not really feeling any of these to pop them in. If we wanted to, we could pop something in, maybe like a flower on the side. You just click it and boom, it pops it in. We could make this bigger, like size of 5, and do like one-on-ones. That's too big. This is not my style, but let's just say we wanted to do this. Oops. Okay, this will be our special thing on both sides. We just pop that in from the import. Now it didn't group all of these little vectors together. We want to, if we clicked on one, we're just going to move one vector. Click back. We want to group all that together so it all is one vector, one grouping. So we'll highlight all of it by just clicking and dragging, and then come over here to the line with a square and a triangle. It says group selection. When you hold over it, we'll click on that. See it change to an X. And now when I click on one of them, I can drag it around. So let's say I want to put one over here. I want an exact duplicate of that. So what I'll do is I'll highlight it, and keyboard, I'm going to hold Control and click C, and you can see it just made a copy. So I'll drag it off, and it just copied it. So I can put it over here. Now if I hit Control C again, I can make another copy, and you can just Control C all day long to make copies. But I really only need 2, so I'm going to hit delete. I'm going to take, oops. I'm going to highlight that. It didn't group it all together. We're going to go back and down and group. So we're going to take that one, and we're going to go back on the other side. So here's a little trick about how I space this on the board. It's a little weird, but this is how I do it. So I want these equally spaced from the side over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here to the square. I'm going to make a rectangle. Any old rectangle will do. And let's say I want this to be 20 millimeters from left to right. So I'm going to make my width 20. Height doesn't matter, radius doesn't matter. It's a square, that's fine. Hit apply. So here is my square. So it's kind of auto snapping to the left over here. And it did when I zoomed out. It kind of auto snapped. See how it kind of snapped right to my corner. So that way I can take my flower and I can look and zoom in and know that this line is where I want my flower to be. If I zoomed it down, I could stop it right here. And then if I take this and I Control C and make a copy, zoom out, come over here, put it all the way over here, and I do the same thing on this side. Gotta really zoom in because it's not auto snapping correctly. That is basically close enough. So I do the same thing on that side with these 2 little boxes. See, I can take my flower and scroll here and line it up to where it just barely touches that square. That means I'm now equal distance from this side and this side. Now if I wanted to come down from the top or the bottom, I'd make another square and do the same thing down here and up here, down here and up here, and it would push that, and then eventually when I got these squares correctly, they're just alignment squares. I'll go ahead and delete them. And now I know this square is the same distance from, or this flower is the same distance from the edge to the flower as this side is from the edge to the flower. Now if I want them both centered, I'll click on this one. I'll click on this one. I'll click on alignment. We want to align to stock, and I want that directly in the center. So I'll go up and down. I don't want to do left and right because it'll put them right in the middle. I just want this even from the top to the bottom. I want that directly in the middle. And you see how they both moved? And now they're perfectly aligned from top to bottom and sides. So that's one way that I get them aligned to each other. So if I wanted this one aligned to the left side, I'd click on just this one and I'd click inside edge on the left. And boom, it's perfectly on the left. If I wanted this one the same, I'd click this. Remember, we're aligning to stock. Click on the right. So that aligns on the right side. And if I clicked on this center, it'd pop it right in the center. I want it on the right, so there we go. If we wanted it down on the bottom, I'd click down on the bottom, or up on top, or align to center in the center of it. You can see how I'm moving it around. These are going to pull on the outside edges. You can see how it moved around of the stock. Let's say I wanted it centered on this square. So if I clicked align to last selection, I have the square and I have this flower. But you can see it's going to align this the solid to the dotted. So if I clicked on align to that and I click left, it's moving this big block. But I don't want that to happen. I want to move the flower to the big rectangle. So hit back. So I gotta hit back twice. So I need to select them correctly in the correct order. See, I click this one first and this one second, so that's the dash line. Now when I click on these, align to last selection, click on left edge, it aligned it to that. Or if I want outside edge, that's a little better. And I'd have to do the same thing for this one. Select that first, so it's dashed. This one, now it made the second one I select dashed, and I can do outside edge, and they're popped together here. So that's kind of how you mess with selections and aligning. I'm going to go back this one to stock. We're going to do it on the left edge in the center. This one's going to be on the right edge in the center, and hit done. And that's how it is. I don't like them. That was just kind of showing you for practice what's going on. The same way we did a square, we can do a circle. You're clicking on the center of the circle and you're extending out like this, and then you click. And now if I wanted a 20 millimeter radius, I just hit 20 and hit apply. And there's my 20 millimeter radius. Remember, it's radius, not diameter. And if I wanted to change that, I can do 30 and hit apply. 3,000. 30, hit apply. There it is. So that's the square. If we come back up here and do the polygon, exactly the same. We can change the number of sides to 5. We can change it to 4. Again, we can do a radius, how big it is. So the polygon does sided things too. Triangles, 3 is as small as it'll go. I tried to put in 1, it won't work. Let's do 20 side, 320. I made it a circle. 20 sides. It's better. 10 sides. So that gives you an idea of the polygon shape. So this next one's a little weird. It's the curve tool. So let's say I wanted to put like kind of a half curve here, half a circle. There's many ways I can do this, but this one we're going to do a curve. So I'm going to put a point here, put a point to about here, and when I click on that second point, I'm going to start dragging. I'm going to mess with the drag, and I kind of want the curve to be something like this. And I let go, and now I'm working on the second part, but I'm going to hit done. So that gave me a curve line. So if I hit Control C, it's giving me a second curve line. And if I want to connect it, let's go ahead and click on flip. So remember, the vertical flip will click, and I can drag it over here. And I can zoom in, and I can edit this to where one node clicks on the other one. Kind of like a lemon shape, but that'll do curved lines. So if I hit Control C from here, I lie. So hit this and hit this with control. I can group these together. Now that's one grouping. And if I hit control C, I have another one now. Oop, I'm grabbing too many things. Reset. I can drag this. Well, if I group these together, I can drag this over. I can flip it around. And you see how I did kind of a curvy deal, kind of an accent. Very basic. That's the curve tool. It's not fantastic, but it works. You can work with some node editing. We can join two things together. If I have these kind of close, join. And now I just made a line down together. It joined the two nodes points together. So if you ever have like a word come in with an SVG, and for some reason it doesn't join together, you click that join and it'll make a joint, a closed vector. You can also edit the curve with this curve edit mode. So you can select it like this. You can see how I'm curving it, putting it to a point, and making it way curvier. If I didn't like that initial curve, it was kind of too lemony. I can make a nice softer circle. That's a whole lot better than this kind of point over here. So you can edit the nodes. If you click on node edit mode, we have 3 of the points here. You can edit each point. If I can click on it, there we go. You can edit like this. And then on the end, you have normal edit mode, which is just moving it around. So that is the curve mode. Don't care for these. This is not what I envisioned, so I'm going to delete those. So we kind of went over the text, the poly, the curve. We haven't done a line, so this is just normal lines. If we wanted to just draw a line, we'd stop right there. I'm not clicking on the last part. It's just going to drag over till I hit done. And now I've just made a line. If I delete that, I can make closed lines. I can just end up drawing a square if I wanted to, or I can draw maybe an L. I'm just clicking each point, and now I have a closed L. So that's line. You can also edit each node again, just like the square. So these are all where the vectors are joining together. You can rotate it, move it about the place. For some reason, these do not work. I don't know what this is for. If Carbide wants to tell me or us, anybody has the answer, put a comment down below, and we'll find out together. But I have never made this thing work, so not sure. I'm going to delete that. So finally, let's go down to import. I want to import something down below. I want to import something over in the corners that is kind of nice, that's already out there on the internet. I'm not an artist by any means, so by the magic of YouTube, I'm going to go search, and when I come back, I'll have a file to import. Okay, so I found something online that kind of changed my mind, so I'm going to import from my downloads file, and I found arrow SVG. So I got a bunch of arrows here that I want to move over out of the way. So before I hit anything over there, I'm just trying to move them off the deal. I thought an arrow, oops, what it done. I thought an arrow would actually look better than this line. That way I have a little bit of something over here, a little bit of something over here. So I think maybe this one with a heart. So I'm going to take this and group all of these together because it imported them all separate vectors. So again, I'm going to hit over and group. I'm going to take this line out, and I'm going to take this and bring it over here. And I kind of want to make it bigger. So I'm going to click on scale, and I think maybe 2. Let's see how 2 is. That's a little too big. Let's shrink that down by 70. It's pretty good. Maybe a little wider. Maybe 1.2. Just a smidge bigger, 1.1. There we go. I think that looks pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and align this. I'm going to align it with that. So, because remember, I can't just click on here and align, so I've got to select 2 vectors in alignment, and I want to align it to stock. I want this line to be right in the center. So that's the center of that. So if I want to grab the wrong one. Let me try again. So align that, hit center, and that made the arrow go across, so I got to zoom in and grab the established part, if I can get that out. Maybe put it down here. It kind of gives the right symmetry. I'm not going to use any of these arrows here. I can just delete those off. So that gives some symmetry. I do want this and to be, again, centered. I don't know if it is, so I'm going to select both of these and do align left to right. That way I'll just make it in the center to the stock. See, it did move it over a little bit. So there it is. That is our sign. That's what we're going to go with. Since this is barnwood, make sure I go up here and save what I have. So this is barnwood, and I want to keep the rustic old wood. I want to pocket out all of these things because I'm looking at this. Maybe I want this a little bit bigger. Let's do 400. It's just a little too small for me. I'm looking at it. Gotta make up my mind here. We're gonna align left to right. Oops. Align to stock left to right. There we go. That's what I like. I like that. That'll look really good up on a wall. So since we're going to put this up on a wall and I want to show the barnwood off as much as I can, we're going to hit done. I'm going to make sure I change this. Okay, so we're 19 millimeters is the total thickness of this board. So we're going to cruise over to toolpath. Okay, we're in toolpath, and I think I want what we're going to do. We're going to change out the bit once. We're going to normal pocket out this with a, actually we want to go back to design. We want to make sure that this arrow is it all grouped together? Yeah. We want to pocket this out with a normal bit. So we want to go as big of a bit as we can to where we get as much detail as possible. So right now we have a 102. That's a 0.125, which is a 1/8 inch flat end mill. So I'm really happy with that. If you zoom in, you're getting good detail. If we went up one more size to a 1/4 inch, which is 0.25 in end, and hit OK, it's going to change it. You could see I lost some detail in the corners. Especially maybe in the... it's actually not too bad. But I'm still going to go back to a 1/8. I want all the details I can get. So 0.125 in end and hit OK. And we're going to pocket because we want everything on the inside to just be pocketed out. And we're going to call this pocket arrow. And I like to name 1/8 end mill. Put the bit you're using in here because when it pops up to change end mills, it'll remind you need to use the 1/8 end mill for this. Now depth, since this is 19 millimeters deep, 10 is really deep. We're probably going to put maybe 4 millimeters deep. Maybe 5. So 1/4 depth of this is, let's round up to 20, will be 5. So we're going a 1/4 inch down for that. We'll change it to 4. We're going to start at the top and we'll hit OK. We'll worry about these feeds and speeds later, but we'll hit OK. And that looks really good. So that's one toolpath. Now the next toolpath, we're going to go with all of the names. We want to do all the names with a VCarve bit. So we'll click on VCarve, and we'll hit edit, and then we've got to select the bit we're going to use. Now remember, we need to choose which bit we wanted, and I didn't want the 90 degree, or I didn't want the 60 degree. That was carving down a little too deep. I want to use the 90 degree. So we have this one, which is 45 times 2 is a 90 degree V bit. So that is a 301. So we need to remember that up here, the 301.5 in V. We'll hit OK, and we'll call this words, and we're going to name this one a 90 degree V bit, and hit OK. So you can see all the blue lines in here is where the actual end mill is going to carve. So that's pretty much it. That's all we're going to do in this. If we zoom in, it looks like it's going to carve really well. We got a complete blue line in all of these. Sometimes if the bit was too big and these words were too small, it wouldn't show up. It's even going to do our little circle here. The blue lines wouldn't show up, but it looks like it's showing up for everything. So let's select toolpath simulation. Aluminum is usually a default, but we're going to go into pine. Doesn't really matter. It's just going to show us more of what it's going to look like. So here you go. This is what it looks like. Turn it a little bit this way, and you can kind of compare the depth of what we're going for. So you can kind of see it looks, this is probably going to be a little bit deeper, but the cowart's going to go down just like this. These are going to be shallower because it's not the name is not as big. You can see that the O and the 1 are not all the way through, and that's not because of something we program wrong. That's just Carbide Create's rendering. It's just wrong. But if we zoom around, zoom in, the heart is going to come out really nice. I'm pretty happy with that. So we are good. I'm happy with the design. That was an off-the-cuff design tonight. You can hide the simulation. Here we are again. Again, this is our toolpath. So we're ready to save. We're ready to cut. So the final thing I like to do is I like to come up here and click Save or Save As. I save this as Cowart. This is just the Carbide Create file. This is not the one that's going to make it cut out. You have to do that differently. This is just saving this. That way if I close this and want to reopen it, I go back. Right there it is, Cowart. But if I double click on the file itself, again, this is an odd thing with Carbide Create. It doesn't actually open the file. It just opens a blank Carbide Create. So I have to click on Open within Carbide Create, and there's the file, and that loads it in. So there's my file. I'll click on Toolpath. Here is the tools we're using. Everything's looking good. Hitting simulation. We're cutting out. Oh, there's the aluminum. There's the pine. So aside from figuring out toolpaths, which I'll do in the next video when I actually cut this out and show you how to use two different end mills in one cutting and how to switch it out, especially using the probe, since one's an end mill and one's a V-bit. Aside from setting the speeds and feeds, I'm just going to show you, we'll click on down here, click Save G Code. This is totally different. This is the code that this program makes to make the cutter, the Shapeoko, actually cut something out. So I'm going to name this one Cowart. Again, just like the C2D, which is actually the Carbide Create folder file. This is just Cowart, and it's going to name it .nc, which is the G code. I'd save it. And now on my desktop, I have a Cowart.c2d over here, which is the Carbide Create, and this one, Cowart.nc, that's the Carbide Motion. I'll show you, I'll open Carbide Motion. So here we are in Carbide Motion. I'm going to hit Connect Cutter. It's going to find my file. I'm going to click Load File. It's on my desktop, and you can see I have the Cowart C2D. If I try to load that, nothing will load. because that's the Carbide Create file. Cowart.nc, that's the G code created from the Carbide Create. If I click that, you can see I have some toolpath extents. It means that this Carbide motion can now tell the CNC where to go numerically and how to run it. So that's it. That's this part. I guess this is part 3. More advanced features, creating a sign. And I will leave this file that I created, if you want to look at it, in the description below. Also, I'm going to do a write-up on my blog, so if you haven't checked that out, it's www.myerswoodshop.com, M-Y-E-R-S, woodshop.com/blog, or if you just go to the homepage and click on blog, you'll find all kinds of CNC stuff on there, especially if you're a Shapeoko user. And I'll leave this file up so you can look at it, and the toolpaths and speeds and feeds that I've used in the next video will be edited in that file. Stay tuned for the next video when I actually cut this file out onto the piece of barnwood for my buddy and show you how to change out your bits and what this looks like, and then finally hanging it up. If you like this video and it helped you out, make sure to hit subscribe down below, hit a thumbs up, and if you have any comments or questions, go ahead and leave those in the comments down below. I try to answer all of them and help you out. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.